Hello and welcome to this video on the Bodhicaryavatara, chapter 7, verse 10. I will call up the text for you. Enlarge it. There we are. Swapapasmriti santapta shrinvannadaschanarakan trasuchara viliptango vihvala kinkarishyasi. Swapapasmriti santapta shrinvannadaschanarakan trasuchara viliptango vihvala kinkarishyasi. This verse 10 is ideally read in one sequence with verses 8 and 9. So if you go back to verse 7, whereas even if you abandon your laziness as Yama is swiftly approaching, all kitted up, it will be too late. And verse 7 ends, Kinkarishyasi, what will you do? In other words, there's nothing you can do. Verses 8, 9 and 10, read those as one whole, and again, just as verse 7 ends in Kinkarishyasi, what will you do? So equally verse 10 ends in Kinkarishyasi, and verses 8 and 9 show the things that are happening to you. In verse 8, thinking, I haven't obtained that, I haven't started that, suddenly death has come upon me, thus thinking, hato smiti chintayan, thinking, at the end of verse 8. And in verse 9, when you're lying on your deathbed and you're seeing your relatives around you, red-eyed through the shock of grief and so on. And now into verse 10, tormented by the memory of your own evil and so on. Finally, Kinkarishyasi, 8, 9 and 10, end of 10, Kinkarishyasi. If that's the condition you'll be in, Kinkarishyasi, what will you do? What can you do about it? So let's now examine verse 10 in detail. Swapapasmriti santapta. I'll give you the iPad page now. Come on, iPad page. There we are. The root tap, class 1 verb, so just tapati. Tap. It's actually cognate. Cognate means heat, means burn, or to be hot, and burn in both senses as a transitive verb, to set fire to something, or as an intransitive verb, to burn, to be hot, to be on fire. It's cognate actually with our word tepid, which has come to mean just warm, but not very warm. It's also actually cognate with the Russian teopli, meaning hot, is tep. So back to Sanskrit, tap, to be hot, or to burn, transitive and intransitive. And it also has the sense, and it's the word that's used for suffering pain generally, and it's the word used for deliberately undergoing self-mortification, the often translated as austerities. So we have this when we're forming the verbal noun from a verb, is just as, makes a neuter noun. So tapas, literally the burning, the heat, you suffer the heat. It's a way of performing austerities. Incidentally, make a tapasvi is an ascetic, one who performs austerities. That's the nominative form. The stem form is tapasvin. We have it in both Sanskrit and Pali. So if you put the prefix sam in front of it, santap, it has something of an intensive meaning, tormented or tortured, oppressed. And if you're then past participle, santapta, you are burned up, you're tormented, tortured, oppressed, santapta. And the nominative singular ending, santapta, which you'll see on your in the text. So santapta, tormented. Tormented by what? Swapapa smriti. Smriti is from the root smri. We can make a verbal noun smriti. Smrit just means to remember. Smriti means memory, remembering. By the way, in Sanskrit, in Pali, that becomes sati, which the root meaning is remembering. Smriti in Sanskrit, sati in Pali, which is the word used for mindfulness, as in the Satipatthana Sutta, the sutta on the arousing or the establishing of mindfulness. So smriti. What smriti of what? Again, we'll resolve the compound backwards. Papa smriti. Papa. Often translated as sin, but generally evil doing, wrongdoing. And swapapa. Swa means self or one's own, belonging to oneself. Swapapa, the wrong that one has done oneself, one's own wrong, not somebody else's wrong. So swapapa smriti, self-wrong memory, or own wrong memory, the memory, the recollection of the evil that one has done oneself. So you are swapapa smriti santapta, own evil memory tormented, that is, tormented by the memory of the evil that you have yourself done. So, swapapa smriti santapta. Shrinvan, there's the root shru, meaning to hear. It's a class 5 verb. So it becomes shrinomi, I hear, and it makes it, don't bother too much with the detail of this yet, we'll come to that in the detailed grammar classes, those of you who are with me for that. So shrinvan is the present participle, hearing, just as we had pashyati, he sees pashyan, seeing. From shru, shrinvan, hearing. So shrinvan, nadashcha narakan. Oh, by the way, shru, past participle shruta, and the neuter form shrutam, heard. In Pali, sutam, with a single T. Evam, maya, by me. Evam, thus, by me. Looking at Pali now. Many of the suttas, note, by the way, completely different word. Sutta with a double T is the discourse, the sutra in Sanskrit. Sutta in Pali. With a completely different word with a single T, sutta, heard. So, evam maya suttam, very frequently translated as thus have I heard. Evam, thus, maya, by me, suttam, heard. In Sanskrit, it would just be evam maya, that's the same in Sanskrit and Pali. Evam maya, thus by me, shrutam. Evam maya shrutam, evam maya suttam in Pali. So, shrinvan, nadashcha narakan. Nada is from the root nad, meaning to roar, make a loud noise. By the way, the word for a river, nadi, is the roarer, the idea of the roaring water as the river flows. We have, sorry, that didn't come out well. Sorry. Oop. Cool. Simha is a lion, or Singha, sometimes Singha, as in Singhapura, the lion city. Singapore, we call it Singhapura, lion city. Singhanada. So, pen's doing funny things. Singhanada is the lion's roar. So nada, the accusative plural would be nadan. And by sandhi, where you get this word ending in an N followed by a ch, and the shrinvan, nadanscha shrinvan, and hearing the roars, the cries, that becomes nadancha, becomes nadanscha by sandhi. So if we resolve the sandhi, it will be nadan cha narakan, with sandhi nadanscha narakan. Naraka, hell, one of the words for hell, and a common way of forming an adjective from a noun is to strengthen the first syllable. So naraka as a noun meaning hell, naraka meaning belonging to hell or hellish. So shrinvan, narakan, nadan, hearing the hellish screams. Nadan, put the cha, so it's and hearing the hellish screams. Shrinvan, nadan cha becomes nadanscha. Narakan, again narakan like nadan, ending in an, masculine accusative plural. So shrinvan nadanscha narakan. Trasurchara vilipitango. In this compound, it ends in an O. The general rule of sandhi, ah, before a voiced consonant, and here it's a v, voiced consonant, becomes O. That's why you have viliptango vihvala, not viliptanga vihvala, viliptango vihvala. Very good way of remembering that rule for those who haven't got it already. Namah, nam to bow, salutation. Before a T, the final ah becomes as, which we have namaste, a bow to thee, namaste. One way of doing the greeting is just to say namah, or say it twice, namo namah. Now, namo, namo namaha. And that ah becomes the O before it, because it occurs before a voiced consonant, the na. Namo namaha. Namo buddhaya, homage to the Buddha. Again, because the voiced consonant, the B of bu, it's not namah buddhaya, but namo buddhaya. For the Pali students, bear in mind that in Sanskrit, this ah ending changes to o in certain contexts, primarily before a voiced consonant. but also before a word beginning with a short a. Whereas in Pali, it generalized, it always becomes o. So, for example, Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The Namo tassa in Pali, Namo tassa. Tassa is the dative, but in Pali, the genitive and the dative have merged. In Sanskrit, tasmai, to that. Now, because then it begins with a T, the following word begins with a T, the as remains that it is. Namastasmai, Pali namo tassa, Pali namastasmai. Homage to that. Bhagavate arahate samyak sambuddhaya, it would be in Sanskrit. So, Shrinvan Narashtanaraka, yes, Trasurchara Viliptango. Again, Trasurchara Viliptango. Work backwards for this compound. Anga, anga, means a limb. The primary meaning is a limb, as in a limb of the body, the arms and legs. And then by extension, it means a part of something, a member. And then it's used in numeration as an eightfold, the Ashtangika Marga, the eight-angad Marga, the eightfold path, the Ashtanga. Some of you may know Ashtanga Yoga, the eight-limbed yoga, the yoga consisting of 8 parts. But here in this compound, the word anga does refer to the parts of your own body. So vilipta, and again, anga is a noun, but here it morphs into an adjective because having limbs that are smeared. So lip, to smear, vilip, more of an intensive form, vilipta. So vilipta, passive participle, vilipta, like smeared all over. So viliptanga is with limbs smeared all over. With what? Trasochara. Tras is to fear, and you can make a noun out of it, the noun fear, as very often happens with roots that have an a followed by a single consonant, not a conjunct or a double consonant. It makes its verbal noun, or one way of making a verbal noun, there's more than one, is trasa, which just means fear, the noun fear, as opposed to the verb to fear. So trasa. So uchara, excrement. Char, meaning just to come out. Uchara, to come out, that which emerges from the body. So excrement. You're smeared all over with poo because you're so terrified. So the uchara, that which comes out, grows out of you. A bit like the Latin word cre. We have an increment, is an increase. An excrement is that which emerges from you. So it's trasochara, fear, excrement. In other words, because you're so terrified. Oops, sorry. You shitted yourself with fear. Trasochara viliptango. So terror shit smeared limbs, with your limbs smeared all over with shit because you're so terrified. Vihvala is distressed. masculine singular form with the a stem form without the stem form, just like that. Vivala. I've tried to resolve this. Is there a root of hval? I can't find any root of hval, so this is one of those words we just have to take it, have to take for what it is. So, vivala, alarmed, distressed. Now, kinkarishyasi, what will you do? So all of these things, verses 8, 9, and 10, all these conditions that it's describing, what your condition will be, what you'll be seeing, what you'll be hearing. Kinkarishyasi, what will you do? What will you do then? The idea is, what will you do then? If that's your condition, you've left it too late to start your tapas, to start your bhavana, your practice, to give up your evil. So I shall read this through again. I'll read it through twice slowly. I'll call up the text again. There we are. Swapapa smriti santapta shrinvandadascha narakan trasochara viliptango vivala kinkarishyasi. Swapapa smriti santapta shrinvandadascha narakan trasochara viliptango vivala kinkarishyasi. Very well, that concludes verse 10 of chapter 7 of the Bodhicaryavatara. Thank you for watching.